As we approach the second half of the final slash season 9 or final season slash season 9 of Friendship is Magic, thus the final half of the series itself, with the exception of the occasional holiday special that may happen at the end of the year. One of the biggest questions anybody has or has since the series began in both animated and even IDW comic book form is why add romance to a series that's about friendship? That in itself is a good question. Romance has always been sort of a controversial, if not kind of debatable subject when it comes to Friendship is Magic, no matter what form of media you pay attention of it in. Whether you watch the series or you read the comic books, romance has always been something that's been highly contested, highly talked about, if not highly debated on whether or not it should be included in a show about friendship. But I think the reason romance is added into a show like Friendship is Magic, and even its spin-off Equestria Girls, is quite simple. You see, in time, friends, if it's a girl and a boy or a man and a woman, a friendship between those two, depending on the situation, will sometimes develop and evolve, especially when that man and a woman probably grew up together as kids from, let's say, grade school, middle school, or high school, and all of a sudden that friendship one day ends up becoming something more. Or in some cases, the one or the other decides maybe it's time to take it to another level. And as you can tell, I'm doing this on the fly, unscripted, but the point is, one or the other might decide, if not both, that maybe it's time to take that friendship to another level because they have started to grow more affectionate towards them than they've ever been before. But why would they want to imply that in something like Friendship is Magic? Well, it's quite simple. The reason they would want to decide to add romance into something like Friendship is Magic is to kind of give it a little bit of reality. Yes, it is a fictional show about, pastel, colorful, rainbow-fied ponies and all that, and the allies and enemies and all that they encounter. But the main core of it is about friendship. And to keep it kind of based in reality, or kind of give it a bit of that sort of realistic feel, sometimes the creators will come up with the decision to actually take certain friendships and develop them into something more. Sometimes these romances just come out of nowhere. A good example would be Big Mac and Sugar Belle. We knew that Big Mac had an attraction to Sugar Belle in the breakup breakdown, but she didn't know herself. Although she may have been a little clued in on it, she wasn't too sure. It wouldn't be till later on, thanks to the help of the CMCs, that Big Mac and Sugar Belle would finally end up being together. Especially when Sugar Belle saw the real Big Mac and saw what he was willing to do to help her out instead of trying to be something he's not. The other example of basically a romance coming out of nowhere would be back last season in basically the Maud couple, with the introduction of Mud Briar, Maud Pie's boyfriend, or cult friend, if you will. And this suddenly just came out of nowhere. It's like no one saw it coming. Not even Pinkie Pie in story saw it coming, not even her sisters. But we could assume that when Maud went off to college for a bit, she met Maud Briar, found that they had a common interest, developed a friendship, and over time that friendship developed into something more. And by doing so, Mud Briar has done something no one ever expected could happen with Maud. It's kind of slowly helped open her up a lot more than she has before. In other words, she's become more expressive in not just her facial features, but in what she says. The same again can go back to Sugar Belle and Big Mac. Big Mac being around Sugar Belle allows him to open up more, allows him to speak more fluently without being yup, nope, and all that. So sometimes a romance that slowly is developed up in some kind of shape or form, like these two were, maybe on screen, if not off screen, basically helps one or the other, if not both, out in trying to, grow as characters, grow as individuals. And again, that's where the base of reality somewhat comes into play when the creators decide to add romance into the scenario of the story. But it seems that romance is not just limited to secondary major characters like Big Mac and Maud Pie and their significant others, Sugar Belle and Mud Briar. It also seems that romance, ever since the beginning, has been sneaking its way into the main group of the show. Now, when you look at the main 6, or now the main 7, or as some might say the main 8 if you include Starlight, some would say that this is a core group that's supposed to represent friendship. Basically representing the fact that it doesn't matter what race you're a part of, what tribe or species you're a part of, that if you're willing to accept friendship or give friendship a chance, yes, that's great. And these are the kind of characters or individuals you want to be around that will help you try to accept that friendship and grow that friendship, not just with them, but with others out there. But when it comes to romance, you wouldn't think romance would play a factor in the main 7 or main 8's lives, but they do. Again, biggest example out of that when it comes to this group is Spike and his crush, if not relationship, affection, if you will, love, if you will, for Rarity. Now, some might say that at the beginning, Rarity was a rare, but she didn't really reciprocate or return those feelings to Spike. Although Secret of My Excess could say otherwise, especially towards the end. Some would say that Rarity took advantage of Spike, took advantage of his feelings for her. But if that was the case, then wouldn't Spike, the way he's been developed, depending on the writers and all that, wouldn't Spike as a character growing up maturely, mentally and all that, maybe not physically, wouldn't he be able to see through that? Of course he would. Of course he'd be able to see through that. But here's the thing. He might be seeing through it. He might know about it. And maybe it doesn't bother him. Maybe he feels that the more time he spends with Rarity, the more he gets to know about her. And in a sense, the more time she's around Spike, because he's willing to help her, the more she gets to know about him. This all would culminate, if you will. This would all culminate, if you will, in Best Gift Ever, with Spike's portion of the song "True Gift to Giving." And again, it bears repeating. When you listen to how Spike sings that to Rarity, it's not just a song about how much her friendship means to him, and it does. But it's also played as a love ballad, a serenade. Like Spike's basically, with all his heart right then and there, in front of not just the rest of the main group, but in front of Discord, in front of Shining Armor and Cadence, and even Flurryheart, and this Winterzilla that's a new pet friend of Fluttershy's. He's basically in front of everyone expressing his love to Rarity with all his heart. He's pouring his heart out to her with this song. And when you notice Rarity's reaction, she has what's known as sparks in her eyes, or stars in her eyes. Now, if you're a fan of classic Disney animation, the last time you would see something like that when it would come to, let's say, romance, would be Lady and the Tramp. Lady and the Tramp had that during the spaghetti scene after well, both Lady and Tramp kissed when they were both chewing on the same string of spaghetti. So anybody would be wondering why they would add this in there. Well, it's quite simple. The creative staff knows, in a sense, that these are the last 2 seasons, so they might as well get a lot of stuff taken care of that fans want to see taken care of. As a matter of fact, we go back to the mid-season finale, and even though it was for about 20 seconds, Rarity was the only one to run out of the group towards Spike after he was caught up in a tree being eaten by this giant tortoise that escaped from Fluttershy's pet sanctuary, or something. So when it comes to Spike and Rarity, the romance perspective for the main group has been there since the start. And it's even featured in the comic. As a matter of fact, at the end of the Nightmare Rarity arc, the last panel has Rarity holding Spike next to her real closely, and then you see a heart emoji on top of it. So it kind of shows that both sides of the spectrum, the comics, the creators behind the comics, and the creators behind the show, acknowledge the whole Spike and Rarity dynamic when it comes to a sort of crush / relationship / romance, attraction, whatever you want to call it. But Rarity and Spike are not the only ones in the main group that go through this, or with each other. There are others as well. The other one that comes to mind, believe it or not, is Fluttershy. Now you wouldn't think someone like Fluttershy would be into romance, or be the kind that would want to have romance in her life, or have someone to spend the rest of her life with. But believe it or not, she does. Now, a bit of spoiler, not to give much away, but there was a line thrown into the 18th episode, and you can thank China for the early release of that episode, and that was our water cooler. It does that on occasions. Anyway, like I said, basically, Fluttershy, as I was trying to say, you wouldn't think would be into romance, if you will. Or, well, she would be into romance, but you wouldn't think she'd be the kind that want to spend the rest of her life with someone significantly, right? Like, she's more focused on her animal friends. But yet, as I was trying to say before that interruption, thanks to the early releases of the episodes, mostly the second half in China, in the country of China, I should say, we kind of have an idea of perhaps maybe Fluttershy does want that. There's a line thrown out there by a certain main pet of hers, basically there's a certain line thrown out there by a certain main pet of hers that indicates that Fluttershy wants to marry Discord. No joke, that line is thrown out there. Now again, I don't want to give too much away, but I just let you know that that is one line that is thrown out there. Now the reason this line is maybe significant in some ways is it kind of indicates that Fluttershy's friendship on her side of the spectrum for Discord is starting to evolve. It's starting to grow into something more from her perspective. In other words, she's starting to grow more intimate. She wants to be more intimate with someone like Discord. And we're pretty sure that in character and in show, Discord might have an idea or might have a clue that Fluttershy feels this way about him. I mean, heck, we go back to Best Gift Ever again, and during Twilight's portion of the song True Gift of Giving, Fluttershy has this look on her face, like a little mischiefy a little bit, gets a little bit of a gift, a wrapped up gift, gives it to Discord. It's a gift she was going to give him anyway. Turns out to be a teacup, turns out to be a tea kettle, kind of a Discord, kind of like a tea kettle. And as he's opening it and happy to see what it is, she surprises him with a hug. Like, where did this come from? And then at the end of this song, when they're held up by the Winterzilla, she gets close to his chest and all that. So there are hints and indications that Fluttershy does probably want to take this friendship with Discord, the Lord of Chaos, if you will, to the next level. And it's not a surprise that she would want this. It's not a surprise, maybe to a lot of fans, that she would want this, due to the fact that pretty much ever since the end of the season 6 finale and going forward and all that, that maybe there's been something there that we haven't noticed. I mean, heck, when Discord was willing to make himself different, to have a little bit of a tea party with Fluttershy, nearly causing himself to cease to exist, Fluttershy goes out of her way to kind of remind him of who he is, of what his lifestyle is like, and why she became friends with him. And again, going back to, let's say, Big Mac and Sugar Belle and Maud Pie and Mudbriar, when those relationships came out of nowhere, more specifically Maud opened up more because of Mudbriar. Believe it or not, she opened up more because of him. The same can be said for Fluttershy. It's thanks to her interaction with Discord that she opened up more. She became more expressive, if not more mischievy and sarcastic and sassy, as some people would say. So, basically, yeah. We don't have been hints and indications that maybe there's something more between the two than just friendship, and maybe that line thrown in the upcoming episode, again, not giving much away, maybe that line is an indication of that. Now, some have said that that line thrown in there is also a reference to something else. You see, the other kind of story that focuses around Fluttershy and Discord, it's not an official story, but the way it's been received by the fan base, it might as well be. And that is The Bride of Discord and the sequel, Daughter of Discord. Basically, these stories, long story short, were created by a fan named Disney Fanatic. I think it's like 2654, I believe. I gotta look it up, but mainly her name is Disney Fanatic, and she's going to be at BronyCon. And currently, right now, she's working on a prequel to the series, mostly the Daughter of Discord series. But getting back on topic, she had wrote the story Bride of Discord and the follow-up Daughter of Discord, and both stories became so well received that they ended up getting web comic adaptations, and those web comic adaptations became motion comic adaptations that will voice by a variety of members of the analysis and fan base community and overall fan base. Some of the most notable voices out there to contribute to both series were Dal Wilsonator, aka Thespio, Katie Patterson, aka Midnight Sonata, and Keyframe, Chrissy, if you will. I think that's her name, Chrissy. As well as people like Brony Master 44 and many others. So a lot of people contributed their voices to this. Even Disney Fanatic contributed a voice. But it shows you that even back then in season 4, or before season 4 and even afterwards, fans pretty much saw that there was something there between Discord and Fluttershy. Something that could develop from being a friendship to being something a lot more. But it's not just Fluttershy either in the main group. Oh no. There's one significant other. And it kind of spans both. Now, despite you could probably talk about Starlight's deal with Sunburst, and we pretty much know that's going to go somewhere, even if we find out at the very end of the series. The one I want to talk about that kind of expands both, and when I'm talking about both, I'm talking both the main show, if not the main comic from IDW, and its spin-off or connecting spin-off, because apparently both are within the same continuity, believe it or not. And that would be Twilight Sparkle. Now you might ask, well, how does Twilight fall into this? She's the Princess of Friendship. Ah, that is true. But you can thank Equestria Girls for this, and you can thank somewhat the ending of the first Equestria Girls movie, You can thank the ending of the first Equestria Girls movie when Twilight comes back to Equestria itself, I would call it Pony Prime, if you will, or Equestria Prime. When she comes back, she encounters a certain pony. Now this pony she encounters is the pony equivalent of someone she encounters in Equestria Girls in the human world of Equestria. And that individual is Flash Sentry. And ever since this moment, a lot of fans have interpreted that this might be the direction the show will go, if not the overall franchise will go from a romantic standpoint for Twilight. Like, even though she's the Princess of Friendship, that when it's all said and done, she'll probably end up with Flash Sentry on the pony side of things before you know it. Or maybe when things all settle, no more darkness and all that, maybe she'll be granted an opportunity to go to the human world and spend the rest of her life with the Flash Sentry there. No one can really know. But Twilight is not immune to this. Heck, when she was in the human world, she even gave Flash Sentry a kiss on the cheek as a thank you for helping her out. The point is, even the Princess of Friendship is not immune to this. She herself is dealt with romance as a part of the main group. Mostly when it comes to someone we haven't seen, someone or some pony I should say, that we haven't seen that much we haven't seen her interact that much with at all. Now you could say, well, the Twilight Sparkle on the Equestria Girls side is with somebody else instead of Flash. If you look at the two, as Twilight put it, in Spring Breakdown, she is the other Twilight. She's known as Psy-Twi. So, they're kind of different, similar but different. Point is, Twilight, our main Princess of Friendship, Twilight Sparkle, has pretty much, well, I'm going to put it this way, pretty much has her share of romance in this series across both incarnations, or both series. Basically, that's what I'm trying to say. She's had her share of romance across both shows, both series, if you will. But even though Twilight, the Princess of Friendship, has had her share of romance, believe it or not, the other main groups have had their own. Now, what I'm about to tell you may or may not be official, and some come from basically fan interpretation, and one might even go back to something I just mentioned when talking about Fluttershy. But yeah, before I talk about that, again, our own Princess of Friendship is no stranger to romance. She's not. And you can thank Equestria Girls for that. But let's get on to that subject I was just talking about the other groups, other members of the main group, kind of being in this category, somewhat official, somewhat not official, and maybe from a fan's perspective, it's just obvious something's going to happen. Now, when it comes to the other members, characters like Pinkie, Applejack, and Rainbow Dash are not totally known to have romantic connections. But, believe it or not, they do. They actually do have a little bit of romantic tendencies. Go back to, I think it was like season 4 or 5, and we had the episode Simple Ways. And Applejack basically was getting hit on, or kind of being complimented very flatterly by this incoming kind of semi-celebrity or well-renowned pony or stallion known as Tenderhoof. And even though Applejack kind of acknowledged it, she wasn't too interested in him. But there was one pony that was, and that was Rarity. And this goes back to Rarity and Spike. Spike loving Rarity so much that he put his feelings for her aside to help her try to win the heart and the hoof of this individual. But that's neither here or there. The point is, Applejack has had her share of romance, or at least teased about it, in the series. In the main series, if you will. But outside of the main series, when it comes to, let's say, fan projects, Applejack has had a significant amount of romance. In fact, one character in the main series that they like to team Applejack with is named Carmo. Why? We don't know. Caramel is just a pony that just came out of nowhere, and fans are like, hey, you'd be perfect for Applejack. But again, we don't know. But one of the biggest interpretations when it comes to Applejack romance is, again, outside of the fandom. And it's something that fans believe could actually happen in the series due to the believable dynamic the two have between each other. And that is Applejack and Spike. And in the Bride of Discord story done by Disney Fanatic, Applejack confesses, I think around, what was it, part 7? She confesses to Zecora, as well as finally to herself in song, which is a song from Les Miserables or something called On My Own or something like that. Or something like that. I can't remember the name. But it's from that play, Les Miserables. I can't pronounce it. But anyway, she confesses to herself how she feels about Spike in that song, and then goes to Zecora and pours her heart out. And it isn't till the end of the Bride of Discord that these two finally get together. And then it's continuing on in Daughter of Discord. And again, it's because of certain elements in the series, certain things happening, like the episode Spike at Your Service, and a few other moments, or several other moments, which Disney Fanatic, and along with many others, felt makes these two a very believable couple that could indeed happen, not just in fan fiction, but in the main show as well. Maybe even in the comic, who knows? Another character, of course, that falls in the category of someone that could be in the romance is Rainbow Dash. And everybody ever since the start of the series has been teaming and pairing her up with Soren of the Wonderbolts. Although some might say that Soren is more going to be like with Spitfire, fans still want to see Rainbow Dash and Soren. Although come season 7, Rainbow Dash is being now paired with Flash Magnus of the Pillars. So yeah, Rainbow Dash has an interesting dynamic. Mostly fans attach her to Soren, so who knows what will come of that in the future. But fans would like to see her end up with Soren at the end. Some want to see her end up with Flash Magnus at the end, but we don't know. But again, she's no stranger to this because she does get shy around Soren sometimes in the series. We have seen that. Heck, she even tried to act like Rarity and flirt with Soren in the episode Newbie Dash. What does that tell you? And then you got Pinkie Pie. Some might say, well, where does Pinkie Pie fall into this? Pinkie could fall into the situation that she has a common friend in Cheese Sandwich, voiced by Weird Al Yankovic. Now, Cheese Sandwich is supposed to come back in the first episode of the second half of the final season, and how that grows the friendship and dynamic in the end, if not into something more maybe down the line, is totally up in the air. But fans always attach her to someone that has a similar interest as her, or has a similar personality. And it's no joke when one says pretty much that's the case when it comes to Pinkie Pie. That the best kind of character you need to give Pinkie Pie as a significant other is, well, someone that's just like her in some ways. Whether it's in fan fiction, like it was with Bride of Discord and Daughter of Discord, or it's in official material. One can never know. But again, we go back to the question. Why add romance in the first place to any of this, especially with the main group? Well, the answer again goes back to the beginning of this. The answer being the fact that, well, romance is just a natural evolution of friendship. Sometimes, again, a friendship could develop due to common interest, and the more you find in common and the more you find out maybe you're kind of opposite but understand each other's different likes, the more that friendship slowly develops into something more. You know, this is why when you, again, look at the romances that come out of nowhere, like Maud Pie and Mud Briar, Big Mac and Sugar Belle, and even the romances slash crushes slash attraction slash affection, you know, whatever you want to call it, between Spike and Rarity, you know, and even the same with Fluttershy and Discord, and even the bit of what we had with, and even the bit that we had with Twilight and Flash, it's all based on friendship. Even as short as a friendship might be to evolve into something more, or as long as it may take to evolve into something more, it's all about finding common interest, learning what the other likes and dislikes, and just getting to know each other from a personal standpoint. And that's why I believe the creators add romance into the situation, whether we like it or not. Whether that romance happens off screen, like it did with Maud Pie and Mudbriar, or slowly developed and built upon throughout the series on screen between Big Mac and Sugar Belle. It's all about getting to know one another. It's getting to know what the other likes and what the other doesn't like, what common interests you have, and then just go from there. And let fate itself, if you will, may be the deciding factor. So there's the obvious reason. And you know, speaking of that whole Spike and Rarity deal, during Valentine's Day, believe it or not, they did have a Valentine's Day group set, a gift set, that had Spike with Rarity, Spike on top of Rarity, and Fluttershy sort of in a Cupid mode kind of deal. Well, somebody pointed that out. But anyway, yeah, getting back on topic, basically that's why I think the creators on both ends of the spectrum added in, to give it a bit of that realism of sometimes friendship becoming something more in the end. But what do you guys think? I know that from a lot of people I've talked with over the past several years, if not the past year and the past several months, a lot of people have had their difference of opinions. A lot of people love the whole romance perspective being slowly integrated into the series as we approach the end. Some don't like it due to the fact that it's supposed to be a series about friendship and romance is not allowed, or shouldn't be allowed, or even acknowledged. And again, and as I've said before in some of my videos, people have a right to their opinion. But what do you all think though? What, in your opinion, what are your thoughts on romance, the creators, if you will, adding romance, or hinting at it, or even referencing, acknowledging it, or even visually showing it in some ways in the series? What are your thoughts? Let me know down below. Let us all know what your thoughts are about romance being given somewhat of a role in the series and allowing maybe friendships to develop into something more. Basically, let us know what your thoughts are on them taking this, basically adding this bit of reality into the series. Although, like I said, there are some that feel it shouldn't be added, while others are okay with it. Let me know down below. Comment if you like. I'll talk to you all later.